that is viciously competitive if it was an ethical world. But we're fighting Chinese communists, we're fighting the Russians, we're fighting ISIS, we're fighting Iran, we're fighting all these people and all these institutions and governments who have as their objective the destruction of our way of life. Okay. It all starts in the school boards. And Nikita Khrushchev in the 1950s said, "We will bury you." And they're doing it by taking our education system. We've been knowing it, we've been watching it, we've been sitting back. We can sit back no longer. We have got to get busy. We're the tip of the spear, you're the power of the spear. Anybody here seen the movie The Patriot?
Yeah.
Loved it. I loved it when Cornwallis lost the battle. Okay? And these are the words I hope that we can say. How could it come to this? A bunch of rabble, peasants. Everything will change. Everything has changed. Okay? You get discouraged out there, you're in the fight, you go to the school board, they ignore you, whatever. When I get discouraged, and I do, because, you know, the House has 400 members with 10 fingers to put in the dikes. The Senate's got 24, and there's still that same number of holes. It gets real busy. When I get discouraged, you know what I think of? I think of a cold winter night in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The leader of the Constitutional Army, the Continental Army, George Washington, riding his horse amongst his troops. No food, very little shelter, freezing to death, frostbite, starving, unpaid, have lost every battle they fought. Every battle they fought to that point in the Revolution. And kept on fighting, and we're here today enjoying what we have because of that. That's the kind of fire in the belly, that's the kind of fight you're going to have to save your kids and our country. Okay? So, when you get discouraged, just think about that. And I also have another quote that I enjoy. It's a good way to end. Lightens things up a little bit. And even though you may see giants where only windmills stand, as we all do, and be defeated, I know your sword is true, and I, as your senator, will be happy to serve as your squire. Those are the words of Sancho Panza in the Don Quixote of La Mancha. And I will be glad to serve as your squire. We will fight this fight together. I will serve you. I will lead you if necessary. We're the tip of the spear. You're the power of the spear. God bless you. Let's win for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So, before we move up, we're going to have a panel here with Q&A, because I'm sure you have lots of questions. So all of our presenters will come up, and you'll be able to ask them anything that's on your mind. I just want to mention that next week, in this same location, Chow Kelly is going to lead a media training opportunity. And she's a very effective journalist. She's an award-winning journalist. And I suggest that if you are interested in helping spread the word of freedom, to learn how to properly document with video, this would be a rare opportunity to come and to learn how to make the most of your tools that you have in social media and how to get the word out and distribute that. It's very, very important, and we're honored and blessed that she's going to take time to come and teach whoever wants to come to learn. So with that, I want to just say thank you very much, Chow. So Senator Giuda had said, if you get discouraged, there's places to go. He's definitely one of them. I know that for a fact. But we shouldn't get discouraged, because we can win this battle. We just have to work together. And like I said, this is one of the reasons that we put together the GIP. It's a completely 100% volunteer effort. And we believe and we love our country. And we believe in God, and we believe that He's bringing all of us together. We're His army. And we need to work together in order to take back our country. So with that, I'd like to invite up all of our speakers to come to these chairs and allow the people to ask questions and get some more information from you guys.
I want to add one thing, Ken. 91A, Frank Edelblut talked about. 5 years ago, I had the privilege of chairing a commission on how to fix right to know. Ken testified before that committee. And what he testified to was the fact that the SAU refused to disclose money that had been spent to he, a then sitting school board member. So, most people, if you have to go to Superior Court because you want information, are not going to go there. It has a terrible chilling effect. Ken, I want to tell you that the Division I of Finance in the House 3 weeks ago unanimously passed funding for the Right to Know Ombudsman. That means you don't have to go to court anymore. Nice. Okay? It has flipped the onus from you having to prove that you should be able to see that information to the government entity proving that you should not. That's a huge win. It's taken 5 years. Call your reps. Okay, it's in the House. It'll come back in the House in Finance. Call your reps and tell them to support the Right to Know Ombudsman. Write that down. Okay, that's going to stop a lot of this nonsense. Maine did a similar law, and 2 years in, they had 591 cases. Okay, the cases are now declining. Why? Because the government entities understand, I don't have to get a lawyer and go to court. I can call you out in front of this person. Secretary of State will oversee it. Okay? Except in any case that might involve the Secretary of State. But you're going to have the right to call them out as to why you're not sharing this information. Anyway, Ken, thank you for starting that.
Okay, have at it. We're here. It's your session here.
You're dying.
Thank you, Representative Silber, for taking my question. My name is Diane Power. I'm a state representative representing Brooklyn.
I think I've met you before.
Yes, you have. My question pertains to petition warrant articles. So, apart from the fact that if a petition warrant article contains enabling legislation, based on the vote of the legislative body, if that content is supported, then they have to follow the content of the petition warrant article. However, several years ago, for example, in my school district, there was a petition warrant article that was with regard to Common Core, not to have that in our schools. And it was supported, and the school board ignored it, and then summarily went ahead and put Common Core in our schools. Could you comment on that? On is petition warrant articles based on the content? Is it just advisory only, or must they follow?
It becomes the law, becomes part of the governing law, I believe. And if you, basically the wording of a petition warrant article is typically, shall the school district or shall the town adopt the following, and then you have the text of what you're having an adoption, having it adopt. That becomes the body of the governing law for whether it's the school district or the town. And if they violate it, the only remedy you have is to take them to court, to get an injunction against their violation of that. And what would be nice is, okay, you always have a problem with going to court with attorney's fees and costs. And the rule in America is different than the rule in England. In England, if you win, you get your attorney's fees, and the loser has to pay. In America, each side has to pay their own attorney's fees unless there's a specific statute or unless there's a contract that provides for attorney's fees. Now, in some cases, there have been statutes and there have been interpretation of statutes when, for example, a government body just simply ignores a duty and you have to go there and get a mandamus writ against them. The court has the discretion, I believe, to award attorney's fees. But that's, unfortunately, that's just the way of the world. You have to end up paying to vindicate your rights. There is a concept in the law that says no remedy, no right. So if you have a right, but you don't have a remedy that you can exercise, it's useless. So the answer is, you gotta sue the bastards.
Yes.
Tony?
Just a follow-up to that, on the issue, in Hudson, we had the petition and to prohibit the mask mandate, or at least make it, the mandate anyway. And the school board met and they voted not to have the meeting. And one of the reasons they argued is that it would just be advisory and they didn't have to do it anyway, even if it were to pass. And we called the state AG's office. I got a call back yesterday. And one of the questions was, is there any case law on this sort of thing? And their answer was, they've been looking into it, and as far as they know, there is not. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you know of any. But, you know, yeah, you're right. You have to go to court and establish some, I guess.
One of the things that I filed is called a CACR. It's a constitutional amendment, continuing resolution. Basically, if it's passed by a certain number of percentage of the House and the Senate, it goes to the voters. Right now, the Attorney General is appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Executive Council. And while they do have a limited term, the only way to get rid of an Attorney General that you're not happy with how they're running the office is by impeachment, which never happens. So my CACR is right now the General Court, the House and the Senate together, elect every 2 years the Secretary of State. My proposed constitutional amendment would do the same thing with the Attorney General.
You might have to run up.
Ask somebody else some questions, please.
My name's Dana Buckley. I'm on the Candia School Board, and if you guys don't mind, I'd like to take a couple of brief minutes just to share my story with the people here, and I do have 2 questions for you guys. So in 2016 in Candia, the school board at the time was basically 4 liberals and 1 conservative, and they passed the transgender bathroom policy in the school. I talked to a lot of people, and there's nobody that's a bigot or homophobe or transphobe in my town. But they had things in there like overnight field trips. So if you have a daughter, you know, and your kids are going to Washington, D.C., your daughter might be sharing a bedroom with a biological male, formerly known as a boy. And the school would be telling you this. They also had a section in there that said, and this is a K-8 school in our town, keep in mind, these are young children, these aren't high school kids. They had a clause in the policy that they passed, which was disseminated by the NHSBA, that said if your child is in the school telling the staff that they're the opposite gender, the school doesn't have to tell you. So this is the kind of things that's going on in our schools. I ran against opposing that policy. I ran with a woman who also opposed it. We won. We defeated two term incumbents, and we repealed the policy, and I'm in my 6th year now, my 5th year actually, my 2nd term. It can be done. A lot of these people have drank the Kool-Aid, the identity politics, neo-Marxist Kool-Aid. Don't go to your school board meetings and try to change their mind. They don't care what you think. They're never going to care what you think. You need to run yourselves or find good people in your communities. That's the only thing that's going to make a difference, because these people are never going to give a damn about your rights. I've experienced it in my town. And it can't be done in every town. I mean, if you live in Durham, you might as well move. Or just be honest with you, we need to be realistic about this. You might not be able to, depending on what town you live in, you might not be able to get elected to the school. I live in Candia, which I don't know if anybody knows, it's a fairly conservative libertarian town. I couldn't have got elected in Durham. So you need to run and you need to find good people. That's my story anyways. My 2 questions for you. I wanted to know about the ethics complaint that was filed with regard to Barry Christina for not registering as a lobbyist a couple of years ago. Has that gone anywhere? And also, as you may be aware, the state legislature in Florida of April this year passed a law that said the public schools, or government-run schools in Florida, need to offer a comparative analysis, teach a comparative analysis to students about different political ideologies. So basically, they're required now to teach about the evils of communism throughout history. My question was, do you think we could get something like that passed in the country? Sorry, not the question.
We have legislation that's been submitted to do as you're saying this year already. It's in the book. It's teacher loyalty. It comes under a section of the law which came about in 1948-9 when we were dealing with the so-called, that reality of the communist threat in our country. And we're trying to modify that and incorporate the code of ethics as a person that teaches this stuff. And then if it's proven that teaching that stuff, then they're in violation of the code of conduct and ethics. And then it goes to the state board where they could possibly take their teaching ticket from them. So we'll see how that goes. You got to understand, though, that any legislation we have in the House right now, we have a majority of what? Seven people in the House. Very slim. On any given day, Republicans could walk in there and not be in the majority due to illness or absenteeism of some kind. The same issue may be applicable, for a larger district like Senator Giuda has, in terms of what we say we would like to see in the House is not always, the Senate and the House are not always on the same page. We oftentimes say the other side of the wall. I won't say any more because Bob said the same.
Sarah, top of the wall.
See, he's my rep. So we just say the House is going to do what the House is going to do. And if you read the Constitution, it says that the three branches of government, right, the House, the Senate, and the governor, okay, shall be basically as remote and unaffiliated as is possible while still maintaining the unity of the state. So they want us to be independent. There's a reason for that. But might work, like Rick represents my town, what, how many, 3 or 4 others?
No, you don't even know your own rep. I'm the rep for Haverhill. Haverhill has 1.5 reps. You get the other half.
Okay. All right.
We can't, in debate, we cannot, it's prohibited to even refer specifically to the Senate. We have to say, the other side of the wall.
Really?
Yes.
That's House rules.
Yes, right. The Senate has their own rules, believe me.
Back when I was the rep, Haverhill was one of my towns.
At that time I was. That was like 10 years ago, Bob.
No, it's 20. Anyway.
Dana mentioned Eric Christina. He is the executive director of the New Hampshire School Boards Association. We talked about school board associations a number of times today. There's legislation coming next year. Statute already says that state tax dollars cannot be used to pay lobbyists. We're adding town tax dollars, school board tax dollars. They cannot be used to pay lobbyists. I'll mention that this bill was introduced 2 terms ago when we had a much larger Republican majority and it was defeated. So if this is going to get passed, we need all of you to go to your reps and tell them that we need this legislation.
We're here in a house of worship. When you leave here tonight, go home and pray for a 2022 wave election for us, please.
Red tsunami.
A hand counted one.
Hi, this is Pam Brown from Kingston, and I plan to run for a House seat from Kingston in 2022, so I can't wait to work with you gentlemen. This is awesome. I've also served on the school board twice, and just for your reference, the school board is busy with many activities, not just curriculum. They have facilities meetings, they have budget committee meetings. So if you're a parent and you hear of some textbook that's like white privilege or whatever the bizarre topic is, you need to tell your school board member about that because they don't see everything. They're not in the classroom every day. So please help them out by giving them a heads up about these things. Don't go to the superintendent, go to the school board. And check around in March and in February when the elections come up, because sometimes you'll see flyers on the wall in school buildings about the election coming up with an actual candidate that the look, that the union or whoever wants. Have your son or daughter take a picture of that and get a hold of the local newspaper and make sure it's publicized. My question is, I'm a community college professor. I teach economics. I've dealt with labor unions a long time on my campus, both arguing with them and also making fun of them. Because I know unions historically have done some good when they weren't paid. They had to organize to defeat an unfair employer. But teachers' unions are nothing but protectionist money laundering operations. I've been arguing with them. The most educated and skilled labor force in the world, in degree, the labor force, are public teachers and college professors. They don't need a union. They aren't lettuce pickers. We should have cutthroat competition in that labor market, not protection in the seniority. If you have competition in that market, where can you have it? They've got many substitutable skills. If they can't cut it as an accounting teacher in a classroom, they can find a job at a bank. Anyway, my question is, what have you got coming up in terms of bills to help deregulate teachers' unions? Thank you.
That's federal.
Anything? Oh, I just wanted to mention, when I ran for Lieutenant Governor in California, I proposed that the political dues that they were collecting from the teachers, the different teachers' unions, I figured they were only using the union to collect dues mainly. So I said, let's just cut a check, state money, and give them that amount that they would have needed for campaign contributions if we could just deregulate and make competitive the entire industry. I thought it would be a win-win, but thanks so much.
I can tell you that when I first started teaching, in fact, in education, after I came out of the military, I had 4 years I had to teach before I could get an administrator's certificate. I did that over in in Winthrop, Maine. The first year I was there as a teacher, I joined the Winthrop Educator Association, which was just teachers in Winthrop. They weren't part of the state organization. They weren't part of the national organization. And basically what it was a group of people working together towards trying to improve education in the community and going out to dinner together and having a lot of fun. Halfway through that, my first year, I was asked to be the negotiator for the Winthrop Educator Association. I agreed. I was negotiating. We were getting paid $6 grand a year. And, of course, we have 3 kids, my wife and I, and we could use the money as well. However, at the end of that year, the association in the state level and the NEA decided that you can't join the WEA unless you engage yourself and become a member of the state and the national. I withdrew right in the middle of the negotiation process. I quit. I said no. I joined as a principal in the Principals Association, which was then not what it is today. So there's nothing in the hopper in terms of asking what you're trying to get. No, I don't think we get in the business of regulating who's in and who's out of that. And I'll let the lawyer here beside me deal with it, but I don't know if
Well, the federal law gives a right to have collective bargaining, and there's a long history of the federal law. They're entitled to collective bargaining. The issue is whether or not the school boards are going to recognize them as the exclusive agent, and there's all sorts of the National Labor Relations Board is basically stacked against you and me on all their rules and all their adjudications of any disputes of labor. So it's a very difficult area. It's almost, virtually, right now, I don't think there's any chance of actually decertifying these unions, the teacher unions. They're in there for the long haul. Yeah, you can under the Janus decision, which occurred a couple of years ago, you don't have to join a union, but you don't have to pay an agency fee anymore, because they always say, well, if you're in the school system as a teacher, we're going to negotiate for all the teachers, and we don't want you free riding. That's what they call you, a free rider. So the Janus decision basically said you don't have to join the union, and you don't have to pay an administrative fee. But guess who doesn't tell the teachers about the Janus decision? The unions.
Remember this too, that the union is voted on by the members that choose to affiliate, to accept that collective bargaining, okay? And it can also be reversed. The same members that brought that in can request a decertification vote. That would be very unlikely to take place given the political leanings of those that are in the teachers' union.
I'll just mention that I think the average salary for a teacher in New Hampshire is around $60,000. The head of NEA New Hampshire makes over $200,000 a year.
She's a teacher.
She's a teacher out of a classroom. The other thing which we're doing, we have a bill in the hopper for conversion charter schools. A conversion charter school is if you have a public school and you want it to become a charter school, you can do so with a vote of your school board, with the vote, approval and recommendation of both the teachers. The teachers have to give you a 2/3 support, and you have to have the support of both the principal and the superintendent. I've introduced legislation this year eliminating the principals, the superintendent, and the teachers being part of that equation. If your school board wants to become a charter school and can operate much more efficiently, you don't have to have all the certification standards and all that. You can have different rules and regulations. You take it to your town meeting, and have it voted on there. If it's approved, you are now a conversion charter school. So we're trying to bypass that union through that bill.
Keep in mind that there's two methods of establishing a charter school in addition to the conversions. If you want to start a new charter school, unlike Massachusetts, which has a cap or a limit on the number of allowed in the state, we don't have a cap. But you can apply for a new charter school to your local school district, right? So what do you think the likelihood they're going to be supportive of your application?
There are none right now in that category.
The other alternative is to go directly to the Department of Education, and Commissioner Edelblut has an individual in the Department of Education who does nothing but coordinate applications for charter schools.
And to go through the board process, it can be a group of 10 parents can start a charter school. A nonprofit can start a charter school. Or 2 teachers can start a charter school. Teachers, we talked about education freedom. Teachers have education freedom too. I think there are a lot of teachers out there who are unhappy with the way things are going. Well, they have education freedom, and we've got to let them know that.
This gentleman's been standing.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming down from where you came from. Because I'm a legislator, I'm David Love from Derry, and I know each and every one of them have traveled around 2 hours to get here. And I really tip my hat to you for that. I want to talk about a bill that I put in. It's LSR 2231. It's relative to mask mandates without an emergency order. And what it will do is mandate that a school district, if they have a mask mandate without an emergency order, and a parent wants to pull a student out of there, that school district will have to pay to go to a neighboring school district without one, and the student automatically becomes eligible for with an education freedom account. And I'll be looking for support for it. When I first filed it, I talked to Frank about it, and he said it probably won't see the light of day, but it's a subject that needs to be talked about. But as I go around and I see all these school committee meetings and irate parents over it, Dan, it just might pass. I guess what I'm asking is please contact your reps and ask them to support it.
What was the bill number again?
It's LSR 2231.
Bill numbers don't come out until later in December. So right now they just have this temporary LSR number.
That's it.
And the legislative service requests that are filed, until they're finalized and signed off by the sponsor, the text is confidential. So they're confidential. Then when they're finally signed off by the sponsor and assigned the bill number, then you can actually pull it up online. You really need to bookmark the New Hampshire General Board website. Got a lot of data, a lot of places, a lot of links and stuff like that. Not only you can find out who you can call up and raise hell with, but you can also find out about bills and what the status of bills is and when hearings are.
So there's 2 websites you really need to have in your arsenal. nh.gov, fabulous website. And there's everything under the sun. And then the Department of Education has its own website. And when you dig into that, that's when you start understanding how poor our system of education is treating our children. Okay, we're spending 20 grand a kid, and 74% of them aren't proficient in math when they graduate. Wait a minute. That means that 26% are proficient. Where I went to school, anything below a 70 was an F. Hello?
I'm a favorite of the Guilford School Teachers Association, the Guilford Union, Teachers Union. When I was the chair of the budget committee about 4 years ago, the principal of our high school proudly announced that the average SAT score on a 200 to 800 scale has now moved up to about 515. And he was proud of that. And we were spending 5 years ago, $24,000 per student per year. And I wrote a letter to the editor that was published in one of our local papers that I refer to as Pravda on the Lake, which is also called the Laconia Daily Sun. And I published a letter and I said, we're spending money for a Cadillac or Mercedes education, and at the end of the day, what we are getting are Yugos. They love me.
Excuse me one second. Representative, just the people that wanted some of that information you have.
Yeah, just take the stuff right
The staff right there.
My name is Maura Ryan. I live in Londonderry, New Hampshire. I also wanted to point out that the proficiency scores for students with IEPs are 14% and 17% for math and reading respectively, which means that we have an entire population of over 30,000 students who are not employable.
Right.
I wanted to thank Chairperson Ladd and Representative Cordelli for passing 581 to try and stop that, because groups like NHSBA have really done damage to kids with disabilities who are not intellectually disabled. They have regular IQs and they can do things. My question actually has to do with our school board meetings, actually. When we go to our school board meetings, we actually file a petition to try and do a mask mandate special meeting. And the school district attorney was present at the meeting. My question is this: how is the school district attorney able to advise the school board when they have completely different roles and responsibilities? Is that not a conflict of interest?
My experience, which is limited basically to my own area, when I've been involved with the school district and the school district lawyers, usually, in my own personal opinion, this is my personal opinion only, the lawyers for school districts are selected for their ability to serve as lapdogs. That's it. As a lawyer, I practiced for many, many years, and I can tell you, you get a new client in. The first question you ask is, who's my client? Make sure you're clear. What is it that they want to accomplish? And then you try to see if you can accomplish that. And if you're intellectually honest, you'll say, I can do that, or no, you can't do that. But with the huge number of lawyers that we have in America and in our state, not as many here as in some states where I used to come from, you're always going to be able to find a lawyer to take a position that you don't agree with. And that's unfortunate. Whether that's intellectual dishonesty or just saying what the client wants, that's just what it is. I said on one of the recent forums that I participate in, because everyone knows I'm part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, I said that I asked lawyers to be intellectually honest, not pretzel makers. But that's, unfortunately, we get a lot of pretzel making.
Hi, my name is Katie Cartier. I'm from Greenfield, New Hampshire, which is like a little dot on the map. I'm the only person here from my district of 9 towns. We're the Conval district, which I believe is the largest district in the state. To say that I'm frustrated right now is an understatement. I actually don't even have children in the public school at the moment, but I seem to be one of the only voices in my district who is fighting for our children, so I'm asking for some advice here from just about anybody, what we can do about that. We've started the RSA, I don't remember the number, the petition to unmask the kids. And so in order to get the numbers that we need, because we are the largest district, we need like a minimum of 800 signatures. That is a daunting task, to say the least, from all of those towns. And being that we are the largest district in New Hampshire and have, you know, a lot of kids in our district, I guess I'm just looking for some advice, some wise advice from you who have been there, and how can I rally my troops? I have a lot of people who say they support me and they support my cause and they support our kids, but then when it comes time to show up and do the work, I seem to be one of the only people showing up. And I know I'm not alone, but with a district our size, there are so many days where I just feel like it's a lost cause. So, would you please speak to that?
I would just offer, our children cannot be a lost cause. And that's the criticism, I'm just encouraging you, stay the course, okay? There is strength in numbers, build that coalition in your local community and stay the course. Your kids are worth it, you know it.
When I do a petition for a petition warrant article, you know, I have it in a PDF, and I run off dozens and dozens of copies, and I give them out to as many activists as possible. You need to recruit a lot of activists. So you always need to get more signatures than is required, because some of them are going to be disqualified because when they check the voter rolls, etc. You just have to get activists. You have to have rallies. You have to have meetings. You have to take the time in advance to get that is a daunting challenge.
I mean, so when I first decided to start our group, the Commonwealth Constitutionalists, we're not the anti-maskers, let me make that very clear. I was like, no, this is about freedom. I don't care if you want to put masks on your kid, that's your choice. I'm not for it, just so you know. But within 24 hours, I went from 13 members to like over 100. Now we have 156 members.